Hello, good evening, and welcome to the War Room. We have hit a milestone. This is day 50 of Russia's illegal incursion into the Ukraine. We've got stories. They have been tapering less and less throughout the days because Russia has been regrouping and reorganizing. And, well, basically, they've been bracing for impact. I'm sorry for the slightly late start, but for some reason today, Pwnery, the day after he turned 43, had a compunction to eat a bone-in ribeye. And if you're part of my server, you'll see there's a channel that's called Foodie. And in the Foodie channel, Pwnery took a photo of the steak he bought on the way home from work today. That was 2 inches thick with the bone in it. And I gotta tell you, it was good. I brought it home. I bought 3 of them. Brought it home. Made dinner for the family. My 86-year-old dad, diabetic, in need of 11 stents and back surgery, was the only person in this house able to eat the whole steak. And he's the one with the smallest stomach in this house. Me, on the other hand, I gave it a good college try. And I got through about 2/3 of a 2.5-pound ribeye. And I gotta tell you, it was good. It was good. I had an urge. And tomorrow, for the first time since 2019, yeah, because that's when Kung Flu kicked off, I'm gonna meet up with a friend that I've known since I was 7 years old, and we're going to basically put a sushi bar out of business. We're gonna wreck that place because we used to go to that place every Friday after work. And between he and I, we sent every waitress through college with our tips. That's how much the bill was. That's how much sake we drank and stacked the bottles like bowling pins and beer bottles. And we were the only people there that could eat, get up, walk outside, smoke a cigarette, go back in as many times as we wanted. We had our own table. It was in front of a big screen TV. They always put basketball games on because I used to be a giant NBA fan. Anyway, that place was bankrupted due to Kung Flu, and Pwnery and his mother's brother, my uncle, we had decided to conglomerate our assets and try to buy it because I had a dream that little Pwnerys can sit at the corner of the sushi bar drinking sake all day watching his patrons enjoy themselves while watching basketball. Can you tell I've had a few to drink tonight? Sorry. I'm just in a jovial mood. I want to thank a couple of you who reached out to me for my birthday. I don't generally advertise it. I also deliberately skip social media on my birthday because 99% of the people who reach out to you are fake because they only got the reminder. So for those of you who actually texted me, thank you. Pwnery is now 43. I am no longer the life or the answer to life, the universe, and everything in between. Every year after yesterday is meaningless. There's no milestones for me anymore. But it's okay. My new girlfriend, she's 16 years my junior. She seems really into me, so it's cool. And I get to go see her tomorrow too, so that's cool. I would have had a problem with that, but my mom and my dad are 16 years apart, so I have no dog in that fight. Oh, I have a new viewer. Randy Adams 03. Evening all from Middle Tennessee. I get to do the impression. You're not Hickok 45, your internet shooting companion, coming to you from the hills of Middle Tennessee. Probably not. But anyway, good evening to you, and we're glad you're here. As I had said before, Um, there has been a reduction in the number of stories that I can provide to you, mainly because um, the Russian military has sort of pulled back ever since they have retreated from their advance on Kiev, and they did the end around. So they retreated back to Belarus. They went east and then southeast around the country to regroup, rearm, resupply, and to count their numbers. They have also swapped out battlefield commanders. So the new commander is now the Butcher of Syria. Dvornikov, I believe is his name. So that had happened. And in the meantime, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has taken steps to reach out to as many allies as possible for assistance. And there have been many world leaders, including British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who I have a very healthy respect for. I've known him for years, long before he was Prime Minister. I've known him for years, long before he was Mayor of London. He had put it out there, and he visited the streets of Kiev in person, hand in hand with the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, which the optics of that is incredible because of the vision of solidarity, or the visual of solidarity, which was followed by the presidents and prime ministers of Latvia, Estonia, and sorry, it's off the top of my head, but there's two other countries. They all went together. They all did the same thing. And now everyone's looking back towards the United States and going, hey, Captain Sundown, I mean, sorry, Creepy Uncle Joe, will you be doing the same? To which there's no answer. Because he probably won't do it. Either way, I would like to point out that today's scroller is correct, up to date, as usual. And, well, before I get into that, let me go ahead and pull in my co host. So this is Scott P79. So good evening to you, sir. And I'll just pick up where I left off. The scroller is up to date. However, the number of, quote, boats, ships, boats, etc., has not changed because the photo on the right of our thumbnails is the only photo that I could find today. And I did task Scott with it, and he couldn't find it either. We have reports as of last night, before we had left you for day 49, that the Ukrainian Navy and military had claimed that they had destroyed the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet of Russia, which is a heavy missile cruiser called the Moskva. And for those of you who don't know, Moskva is the Cyrillic or the Russian name for Moscow. And they were hit with 2 Neptune anti-ship missiles. And the photo you see before you is in the background the Moskva, which is clearly on fire, and a support ship in front of it. I can't tell you which one that is. I didn't have time to look it up because, well, Pwnery had to make steak. But earlier today, while I was at work for the Lobby for Working Stiffs, which I know you can't see the channels here on the server on this particular broadcast, but if you're part of my week in review chats from Saturdays, I do show the server channels. If you'd like to join my server, the link to join is in the description of this video. It's open to everybody, so you're more than welcome to join. And if you think that you can provide information or just want to tag along with the war room, I am open to accepting, people to come join the panel. So you can do that. Also, if you'd like to broadcast your own podcasts, or if you're new to the idea and you'd like to get your feet wet, I have a series of videos that I've marked private on my channel, but I will be glad to share with you and to show you how to do it through my server, because I am hosting content creators here. We host the New Watch podcast, we host the Green Room, obviously, and then we host the Week in Review. And I had originally extended invitations to a couple other channels, But until their current platform either fails or collapses, they've decided not to join. But the invitation's always open, so they can always join in the future. But if you're new to the idea and you want to start your own podcast, and you'd like to join basically what I call my collective, um, you're more than welcome to, because my goal is to create a gun channels registry of podcasts here on the server. So that way, when you broadcast, your audience will see a list of other broadcasters here on the server, and then, we can sort of network and conglomerate and work together. That's my goal. And no, I'm not asking for a dime in the process because I'm self funded. So there's that. Anyway, like I was saying, let's good evening to Shady Hill and Terry Share and our new viewer, Randy Adams. So good evening to all of you. And I know my Hickok 45 impression wasn't the greatest because I'm not tired enough. I am drunk enough, but I'm not tired enough. My mentor reached out to me this morning, and he was talking about, hey, happy birthday belatedly. And I just wanted to tell you that I reached out to you to tell you I listened to your podcast live from beginning to end. Um, and, he always tries to provide his constructive criticism and suggestions for the show. And then I usually try to tell him how or why I can't do certain things, or maybe I can. So that's always good. And if you think there's ways that I can improve the show, or improve the way I do the show, or any other my content, then, you know, I got thick skin. I'm part of the generation that created the internet, so I can handle it. You can tell me. Anyway, comments. Let's see. So the fire looks like right in the large missile launch tubes. Not a good look if aboard. That is correct. So that fire that you see there is where their forward launched I think I want to call them. I don't think those are the RBUs, but if they are the RBU launchers, then yeah, that's a bad look. But the explosion that happened actually happened below the water line. And I had heard reports this afternoon while I was at work that the support ship there, and there was actually several others that were towing it, were desperately trying to get that ship to Sevastopol for emergency repairs. However, the ship had rolled over and capsized and sunk today. So I am also looking for confirmation. The Pentagon is, obviously. Um, the Admiral, John Kirby, he's waiting for confirmation, which obviously Jen Psaki in the White House would be waiting for as well, and the rest of the world. So as soon as those photos are available, one of us is going to provide it. But I have no doubt that the Moskva is now scrap because a Neptune missile is no joke, and it was hit by two. And the only thing I have to say in comment for that is, why didn't you fire a third one, you idiots? Because the crew had abandoned the ship and it was a sitting duck. Nothing illustrates your intentions more than being thorough. You should have put a third missile into that thing. They shouldn't even have had a chance to try to stabilize it. You should have eradicated that thing. That should have been a stain and a memory. But hey, if it's sunk, mission accomplished. Good job, Slava Ukraini. So, today's story or today's show is going to be a little bit short, just because of this shifting and this end around, this new commander and this new end around redeployment. The stories have been very slow. There haven't been as many stories available. But I have some for you. I have a story of the day. I will share it with you. The first story actually involves that thumbnail. So at 12:13 a.m. today, which was 7:13 Ukrainian local time, because I'm in Central Standard Time, Ukrainian time is 7 hours away. Russia's flagship of its Black Sea was seriously damaged and had to be evacuated on Wednesday, Russia confirmed, according to reports. The beauty of that is the entire Black Sea fleet had surrounded their crippled flagship and pulled out, which means they all left. which means Odessa may actually get a break from attack tonight. The Russian government said a fire on the ship caused an explosion, ammo rack explosion, because it has basically they have their version of Sea-Wiz, Ehrlichins, RBUs, Hedgehog, anti-submarine depth charges. This thing, if this thing was bearing down on you as a submarine, you have minutes, if not seconds, to try to get away from it. Otherwise, you're fucked. Literally. That is one of the finest anti-submarine ships in the world. And it didn't get a chance to do its job. Anyway, Russian government said a fire on the ship caused an explosion, according to the media, but Ukrainian officials said that the ship was actually hit by 2 Neptune anti-ship missiles. Maxim Marchenko, governor of the Odessa region, said Neptune missiles guarding the Black Sea caused incredibly serious damage to the Russian Moskva missile cruiser. Last month, Ukraine said it damaged another Russian ship on the Sea of Azov. So, there's a thing that's going around today. If you remember, back at the beginning of this conflict, there was a place called Snake Island. And on Snake Island, there were 13 soldiers who were defending the island. And the Russian Navy had dispatched a broadcast telling them, surrender your weapons, do not fire upon us, or you will be shot up, you will be fired upon. To which the Ukrainian defenders literally responded, Russian ship, go fuck yourself. In Ukrainian. It was glorious. It has been the most memed video of this entire conflict for 50 days. And Nomad Sexy, you're not too late. We're glad to have you. Some had said that the ship that had broadcasted that message to Snake Island was indeed the Moskva. But others have said it was a different ship because if I recall, days after that conflict had happened, the ship that did the broadcast was reportedly sunk by the Ukrainian Navy. So it's kind of like, which one was it? Because back in like day 7 or 8, that ship was supposedly eradicated. I put it in the statistics back when the boat count was less than 3. But they've been playing the videos of the Moskva today, and they said that no, it was the Moskva. So either way, it's dead now. So whatever. Seeking the flagship of a particular region of operation, that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. Because the fact of the matter is imagine if the USS Gerald R. Ford and its battle group was deployed somewhere, and the only ship destroyed was the USS Gerald R. Ford. For those of you who don't know, that's the most modern aircraft carrier the U.S. Navy has in its current fleet. It's the newest and latest and greatest. Okay? It's a personal insult, diplomatically speaking, to have that thing go down. It is a floating city and citadel on the sea. Well, in the Black Sea, that was the Moskva. It's a heavy cruiser. It's not like your typical cruiser. Like, this isn't like the USS Cleveland of 1945. No, far from it. This thing has cruise missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, anti-ship missiles. It's got torpedo launchers. It's got Hedgehog torpedoes, RBUs, the latest, sonar. It's got everything. And it has 2 helicopters on its deck. This thing is a floating fortress. Well, it was until yesterday. Now, it's a rusting pile of scrap at the bottom of the Black Sea.
Well, the Russians never were known for having a good surface fleet.
Yeah, and like
the Admiral Kuznetsov that has to travel with ocean-going tugs in case it breaks down. Well, not such a great aircraft carrier.
Yeah, it's like the freaking Edsel of the Russian Navy. Anyway, like Randy was saying, it's like it would be a wound to the soul of the country. You're absolutely correct. It's like the Ukrainian military has reached into the heart of Russia and pulled it right out of its chest if you're a Navy man. I mean, That is a grave insult.
Apparently, that was Putin's favorite ship.
Yeah, and you know, truth be told, I'm very, very surprised that he didn't fire a tactical nuke in response out of anger.
They
If
probably haven't
anything,
told him yet.
no, he knows. He's not an idiot. I mean, it's bad enough that he's now known as the second richest man because I found out what Elon Musk's net worth
He's
is.
worth over $1 trillion.
No, it's 278 billion. He's 78 billion more than Putin. Liquid assets, that is. Anyway,
Yeah, liquid assets, but in hard assets
Putin
and
ain't worth a shit.
overall, he's worth over $1 trillion.
Putin ain't worth a shit.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on. Let's go ahead and get this, underway because I'm gonna get you out of here within an hour. Seriously, like there really wasn't very many stories I can work with today. So I took all the human interest stories out, except a couple because I'm gonna use them as foreshadowing. I want to paint a picture for you today. So this will be the first one. 2:14 a.m., which I think is just about the time I fell asleep last night or this morning. 9:14 a.m. Ukrainian time, and it says this is a true story out of Uhidna. Uhidna, yeah, that's the name of the town. And here you go. Now, I'm not sure how well this picture's showing up for you because my OBS is in a smaller view, so I'm hoping if you're watching this in full screen that you can see this for what it is, which is very disturbing for a guy like me. The writings on a wall and a door in the basement of Uhidna, near Chernihiv, shows a story of Ukrainians being trapped there for several weeks. They had counted the days and they had listed the names of those who died during the occupation. What you're seeing there is a militia or a small outfit of soldiers who had been trapped. And for posterity, knowing they weren't coming out, had cataloged every single day and event and the day that each person had died. That is huge. That is a story that helps build the case for war crimes charges and etc., right? Like that is very hard for me to look at because for the layman you just see a bunch of writing on the wall. If you realize the depth of what those things mean, the older you get, the more emotional you become. It's just a fact of life. I had witnessed people getting killed right in my face before in my 20s and teens. Didn't even bother me. Slept like a dead body the same night. These days, I start reading stuff like this. It starts to eat away at me because I'm starting to understand that we're not going to be here forever, despite the fact that I'd like to be. Um, these kind of things are pretty sad. Like, for instance, if you've ever heard about the disaster of the submarine Kursk, for instance, and there's a very, very, very good movie called Kursk that sort of documents this. They had written the events of what the survivors had to go through right up until the moment that they died. And divers and UAVs went down there as they recovered the bodies after they pulled them out, and they got to see these things. And this is exactly the same situation. It's like what you're witnessing is an epitaph, and it's pretty heavy. But, everyone reacts to it differently. I'm 43 years old now, so when I see something like this, it kind of gets to me. Warsaw says Phantom is another good Russian submarine movie to watch. That is fictitious garbage with David Duchovny. I hate to tell you this, but I have every single submarine movie known to man. I have all of them. You're probably going to name a submarine movie that I have. Like, I don't have any that I'm missing. But it was a nice try. The slight spoiler is Phantom is a David Duchovny movie where he's basically a KGB agent who sneaks into a submarine undercover, and they had forced Ed Harris, who was the commander of a submarine, to take sort of an outdated submarine, like a Kilo class kind of submarine, and they had this this experimental device called the Phantom device attached to it, and they were basically watching over it, and it worked. The device worked. Randy Adams says another good submarine is The Wolf's Call, and that is absolutely correct. That was a French film released, I think, in 2019. Epic film. Loved it. Um, shit, I forgot the name of the class of submarine, but the French have a very high class nuclear submarine. That's a really really good story. That is a fan fucking tastic movie. K-129. That's actually a good movie too. It's based on a true story. The K-129 actually isn't a real ship. The boat in question, um, I think it was actually no K-19 is what the movie you're thinking of.
Real maker.
Yeah, that's actually based off of fuck, what was it called? Hang on a second. Oh, maybe it was Project 658. That's what it is. Anyway, yeah, that's another good one. Like I could do a whole episode just on submarine movies. I swear. If you ever want to do that, hit me up. I will do that. I would love to do that. I've got them all. I've got all of them. If you name one and I'm like, I don't have it, it's because it doesn't exist. I don't know. I should have joined the Navy. Seriously. Gabriel. Das Boot. If you liked that movie, you need to go look for the Das Boot sequel series. I want to say it was on Hulu. I don't know if it was on Amazon Prime. There is a Das Boot series that is a sequel to that movie, and it is incredible because it takes place, I think, a year after that movie and the timeline. And the captain's son, who is played by Jurgen Prochnow, is a U-boat commander. You would absolutely love it. Trust me, it's 2 seasons so far. There's a 3rd season on the way. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I am part of a channel called what did Jive Turkey change his name to? Subbrief. Subbrief. Yeah. And he actually lives not too far away from where my dad grew up. So he and I have traded PMs before, and it's pretty cool. Greyhound, yeah, that's another good one. Watching Tom Hanks and a very old Elizabeth Shue, who used to be super hot. But yeah, that's a really good one too. That was a very good one. The problem I have with U571, really horrible editing. Really, really horrible editing. Like, I was engaged to a girl when I was in college, and that was one of the first movies I bought, and I showed it to her, and she liked it. And we always watched it. Always watched it, generally after shenanigans. Anyway, even she noticed. She was like, "Did you ever notice that this story seems to jump around a bit?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bad editing." It's a good story, though. I do like it. I still enjoy it. If you haven't seen them, you need to rewind a bit. If you haven't seen them before, Run Silent, Run Deep, Clark Gable. You need to watch that. That's Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster. You'll freaking love that. Um, what else is a good one?
Operation Petticoat. It's
sort
funny.
of. No, I was thinking of the ones with. Oh shit, I can't remember. Okay, I promise you. One of these days, we're going to do a sub chat. I promise. We'll do all of them. I will cover every one of them. I didn't even mean to tangent off of this. I promise you. Just one of these days, after this war is over, I promise we will do a sub chat. We absolutely will. I will cover all of them. And if you haven't seen them, I will give you an entire list of you need to watch these. All right, so let's move on because I did the Euhydna story. And a couple minutes later, I had a story that came out, which okay, 2:18 p.m. or sorry, 2:18 a.m. my time, Central Standard Time, right? So what was that? 17 hours ago? Yeah, it was 7:18 p.m. already in Fiji. You're probably wondering why the hell am I talking about Fiji, right? Well, Fiji is investigating the arrival of a super yacht owned by a sanctioned Russian oligarch without customs clearance. Billionaire Suleiman Kerimov has been sanctioned by the US, UK, and the EU, according to Reuters. The yacht was reportedly seized by Fiji authorities and the crew is detained. The yacht was reportedly seized, or sorry, the United States is committed to finding and seizing the assets of oligarchs who have supported the Russian Federation's brutal, unprovoked war of choice against Ukraine. The U.S. Embassy in Fiji said in a statement about the yacht's seizure. We and several of our EU partners have already frozen or seized many assets of these oligarchs. We are working closely with governments and private sector partners in Europe and the entire world, including Fiji, on this issue. I have a problem with this. Okay? Yes, they're oligarchs. Yes, they're rich people, but they're not generally politically people. They're people who capitalized on political people. They're rich, and now they're being categorically robbed by the world. Let's be honest. We're taking your ship, it's no longer yours, and we're going to flip it. That's what they're doing. I have kind of a problem with that. But then again, it's Russian, so fuck them.
I don't, because more than likely, in all
Spoils of war.
likelihood, well, no, in all likelihood, the reason they're so rich is because of Putin. Because he placed them into a certain position or did a deal with them. So, spoils of war.
So, Gabriel just raised a good question, and I think you're the only person who could answer this. Have you ever been to the Sub Memorial at Groton? Because you're the closest to
No,
Connecticut.
I have not been down to Groton yet.
I am going to encourage you, Scott, as a personal challenge. Take your phone,
I
camera, go there, and film it, because that would make great content.
I have been over to, which one did I get in Portsmouth? They've got the albacore. They've got
Yeah.
the albacore over in Portsmouth.
Yep.
No, this summer my plan was to get down to there and to Battleship Cove.
Ooh. Yeah.
Well,
So,
if I had had the time and I had known ahead of time, which I only found out like the day before,
we could have pulled it off.
No, you know who's in the United States right now? A certain British ship junkie. Drac is in town.
Oh, no kidding.
He is in the U.S. on tour.
Huh.
And if I had known, I would have taken ahead of time, like a week or two ahead of time, I would have taken the day off and gone down to Battleship Cove.
He's not working with Wargaming right now, is he?
No,
okay.
I don't think so. This
That'd
is all content for his. He's got a whole itinerary on his Discord server.
Well, so for those of you watching, if you didn't know,
he's
Scott
gonna be here
actually
for a month.
does have his own YouTube channel. So, for people like me, I would encourage you, fucking totally record that, dude, because that would be great content. Absolutely. Like I want to see it, and you're the closest to
you
it.
Gotta have time.
Well, just fake an injury or something.
I would like to go see the Nautilus.
Yeah, fake an injury and just take some time off of work. Make them pay. Make them pay.
No, we only have one person at work that fakes injuries.
Yeah, no. Be the second. Make him disappear. I'll help you. I've watched enough Dexter. I'll help you. All right, let's move on. About an hour later, it's now. I'm just going to give you the Ukrainian time because obviously 3 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean shit to you guys. 10:18 a.m. Ukrainian time. Let's see if I have a photo. I do have a photo. Here you go. This is an update from the UK Ministry of Defense. Russia has repeatedly launched indiscriminate attacks on urban centers in Ukraine since the invasion started. This came from the UK's Defense Ministry in a Thursday morning update. That one. The towns of Kramatorsk and, this is the long Cyrillic, Kostiantynivka. I got it right on the first try. How about that? are likely to be Russian targets for similar levels of violence, the update said. The ministry added that Russia is preparing for a renewed offensive in the Donbass and eastern Ukraine. Duh. A combination of widespread missile and artillery strikes and efforts to consecrate forces for an offensive. You know, I just had a hard time reading English because I've been used to trying to read Cyrillic. Represents a reversion to traditional Russian military doctrine, an update continued. However, this will require significant force levels. Ukraine's continued defense of Mariupol is currently tying down the significant numbers of Russian troops and equipment. Now, before I say it, or before I talk about another story, I need to clarify something. Yesterday, I presented a story to you that came out from Ukraine. It was in the process of being verified, but the source was pretty legit, and it had said and had suggested that 1,056 troops of the Ukrainian 36th Naval Marine Brigade had surrendered in Mariupol because they had put out a story earlier in the day which should have reached into your heart and pulled your heart out because they were talking about how they have been relentlessly defending the town by themselves since day one, surrounded with dwindling ammo and food. And the number of bodies that they had been piling up of their own men had exceeded 50% of their total starting fighting force. And that they were basically saying, we did what we could, this is farewell. It was like their own epitaph. And it was really hard for me to read that yesterday. The good news is the Azov Brigade of the Ukrainian military linked up with the 36th Brigade yesterday. And now they're working together. They didn't surrender. Yay! And now they're working in concert to take back Mariupol, which is nothing short of a miracle. Because these guys they were out of bullets, they were out of beans. You know, it's like, how do you fight a war with no bullets and beans? You're starving and you got no ammo. So
Sticks and stones.
the Azov division linked up with them. That was confirmed, even by the Pentagon today. That is fantastic news because they are the last line of defense against that land bridge towards Crimea and eventually Odessa. That is super good news. Anyway, let's move on. I really didn't think I would be able to tangent off this far. I thought we'd be done by now. Sorry. Ovens is filling up and taking on water. No. That I haven't. No. If you can give me a link in War Never Changes later, I'll take a look. Because that's pretty serious. Let's see. What else do I got? No, we're good. Okay, let's move on. About an hour or so later, 11:23 a.m. Moscow. Russia's finance minister Anton Silu. Oh, sorry. Hang on. I gotta read this real quick. Anton Siluanov. Siluanov. Yeah. Okay. Siluanov plans to attend a G20 meeting. You know what I really like about covering this war? It makes me really brush up on Russian. Anyway, Russia's finance minister Anton Siluanov plans to attend a G20 meeting with other global economic representatives virtually. Indonesia, which is hosting the G20 summit this fall, and said Thursday, they're attending the G20 summit. Russian President Vladimir Putin plans to attend the G20 summit in Bali at the end of October, the country's ambassador to Indonesia said in late last month. President Biden and other G20 leaders have spoken out in recent weeks against having Putin, who Biden called a war criminal, at the summit. The president also told reporters last month that he thinks Putin should be removed from the G20. Well, duh. No shit, right? Like, fuck out of here.
They're not going to let him go.
No, they will. Because he's been expelled before. He got expelled back in 2014. So, yeah, kick his ass out. Number one, his ruble's in the toilet. Number two, nobody likes him. It's like everybody hates Chris, but in real life, nobody likes him. He's got to go permanently. Moving on. Man, my whole house smells like steak. It's so nice. I am a carnivore, yes. So I have this photo for you, and some of you may know who that prick is. I do. But I'll remind you anyway. It's Mr. Potato Head. No, it's not. Sorry. 5:24 a.m. my time. My dogs are awake. They're starting to remind me that they're awake. They're starting to piss me off. 12:24 p.m. Moscow. Russia will have to bolster its defenses in the Baltic Sea, including a potential nuclear escalation, if Sweden and Finland join NATO, Moscow said today. There can be no more talk of any nuclear-free status for the Baltic. The balance must be restored, Dmitry Medvedev, the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council and former president of Russia, had said. That's who that is. That's Medvedev. He was playing musical chairs with Putin. Okay, comrade, you be president, I will be prime minister. When your time is up, I will be prime minister, you will be president. That's what they were doing. And they got away with it. Anyway. Medvedev's warning came as Sweden and Finland seemed closer than ever before to joining the Western Alliance. Finland and Sweden's prime ministers held a joint news conference in Stockholm on Wednesday, with Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin saying the country would decide within the next few weeks on NATO membership, and Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson saying her country is making the same calculation. Finland shares a significant land border with Russia. It's over 830 miles, by the way. Lithuanian Defense Minister Arvydas, this is a Greek name, even though he's from Lithuania, Arvydas Anusauskas, said Russia already has nuclear weapons in the area. The current Russian threat looks quite strange when we know that even without the present security situation, they keep the weapon 100 kilometers from Lithuania's border, Anusauskas said. Nuclear weapons have always been kept in Kaliningrad. Now, for those of you who don't know, if you look at the map of the Baltic states, there is a bit that is owned by Russia that's not attached to Russia, and that region is called Kaliningrad, and it is literally nothing more than a nuclear weapons depot on the coast of the Baltic Sea. The international community, the countries in the region are perfectly aware of this, and they use it as a constant threat. This came from Lithuanian Prime Minister Ingrida Simonite, who dismissed the threat. The thing that Russia threatens is nothing new, Simonite said Thursday. According to The Independent, Kaliningrad is a very militarized zone and has been since its founding, and it is right on the coast in our Baltic region. So, let me break this down to you in layman's terms. You have Latvia, Estonia, you have Finland, Norway, and Sweden. You have all these nations that surround the Baltic Sea. And Russia took over this tiny little parcel of land on the coast of the Baltic Sea that isn't even attached to Russia through a land bridge. It has to cross through another country. And they kept it. Correct. Kaliningrad was formerly a German territory. You're right. Anyway, point is, they kept it as a nuclear weapons deterrent outpost on the Baltic. And now they're saying that because Sweden and Norway and Finland and a lot of the other Scandinavian states want to join NATO, that's going to somehow escalate nuclear tensions, even though they are the ones who have nuclear weapons already in the region. So all these countries that surround the Baltics are basically telling Russia, you're full of shit. And your threat is empty because you already have that shit there. So, as Never Enough Ammo would say, go fuck yourself. including that dopey-headed retard Medvedev. I might be a little animated tonight. Many IPAs were involved. I'm just saying. But I'm not slurring my speech, so at least I
Yeah.
don't. I don't think I have. 'Cause Scott would have told me by now. Man, you must be really 3 sheets to the wind. No, I'm fine.
No, no, I wouldn't, because I'd
Um,
just let you make an ass of
you
yourself.
tell me tomorrow. You'd be like, dude, you were
Yes, I
lit.
would.
No, I'm fine. I'm just really chatty right now. The headache hasn't kicked in, but I'm probably gonna have an early evening after the end of this show. Let's be honest. I gotta go clean the kitchen, round up my dogs, one of which is in heat. Anyway, let's move on. 3 hours will go by, so let's just move forward, right? And it is now 8:25 a.m. My dogs have kept me awake for 2 hours. I kicked them out of my room, threw them outside in the backyard, got about half an hour nap, and now I'm running late. That's what time this is. But if you're on the other side of the world, it's 3:25 in Moscow p.m. Correct. Do I have a photo for you? I do. Here you go. I cannot tell you what those stars on his little thing is worth or what they mean. I hadn't had a chance to look it up. I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me later. The Kremlin's harsh tactics to silence Russians opposed to Moscow's invasion of Ukraine has meant that hundreds, no, it's actually thousands, of Russians are now facing charges for speaking out. A repressive law passed by the Russian government last month bans the spread of what it deems false information about the invasion or anything disparaging relating to its military. You will not talk shit about the Russian Federation, comrade, or you will be wearing your wife's head as a hat in Siberia. That's basically what they're saying. At least 23 people have been criminally prosecuted and given prison sentences for breaking the law, while another 500 are facing misdemeanor charges for disparaging the military. Human rights groups say that the crackdown has led to criminal prosecutions and possible prison sentences for at least 23 people on the quote false information charge, with over 500 others facing misdemeanor charges of disparaging the military that have either led to hefty fines or are expected to result in them. Which, well, if the ruble's in the garbage can, how heavy can the fines be? I'm just saying. Anyway, this is a large amount, an unprecedentedly large amount of cases, said Damir. Oh God, I've never read this one before either. Damir Gainutinov. Wow, that's a man. He must be from the fucking north. Anyway, head of the Net Freedom's legal aid group focusing on free speech cases in an interview with the AP. The Kremlin has sought to control the narrative of the war from the moment its troops rolled into Ukraine. It dubbed the attack as a, quote, special military operation and it increased the pressure on independent Russian media that called it a war or an invasion, blocking access to many news sites whose coverage deviated from the official stance. Sweeping arrests stifled anti-war protests, turning them from a daily event in large cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg into rare occurrences barely attracting any media attention. Still, reports of police detaining single picketers in different Russian cities come in almost daily. Even seemingly benign actions have led to arrests. A man detained in Moscow after standing next to a World War II monument that says Kiev for the city's heroic stand against Nazi Germany and holding a copy of Tolstoy's War and Peace. Another was reportedly detained for holding up a package of sliced ham from the meat producer Miratorg, with the second half of the name crossed off so it read Mir, which is peace in Russian. A law against spreading fake news about the war or disparaging the military was passed by Parliament in one day and took force immediately, effectively exposing anyone critical of the conflict to fines and prison sentences. Now, if you go back and watch the War Room for the first 2 weeks, you will hear me give you statistics that I think over 1,700 protesters were arrested in the first 7 days of the conflict in Moscow and St. Petersburg. Their whereabouts and fate is still unknown today, day 50. Where are they? What happened to them? Were they sentenced? Were they disappeared? Are they in Siberia mining salt? Nobody knows. Nobody talks about it because the Russian media put the kibosh on it. They're not allowed to talk about it. Now, that really smoking hot Russian chick that protested and put the sign out the other day, she's now working for a German news agency. She got out of the country. I just want to put it out there. I put out the invitation. She could have come to Texas. I would have made her an honest woman. Just saying. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on before I get accused of something else. Another hour goes by. It is 4:29 p.m. Ukrainian time. In a fourth prisoner of war exchange, now I didn't even know about the other three because they didn't really report on them. Since Russia's invasion began several weeks ago, Ukraine welcomed home 30 of its citizens Thursday. The exchange was announced by Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk, who said that the exchange included 17 soldiers, 5 officers, and 8 civilians, including 1 woman in a post to the Telegram. It is unclear how many Russian soldiers were exchanged in return during the prison swap. She could have come to California. No, Mad Sexy. Nobody could go to California. Fuck them. We want her to be free. There's a difference. Anyway. If she came to California, they would like bend her over and tattoo a prop. What do they call it? Prop 65?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, they would have tattooed a Prop 65 warning on her left ass cheek or something, saying that, the state of California has deemed that Russian women can cause cancer or whatever the fuck. See, Randy was smart. He ran the fuck out of California in 2004. Well done, sir. Well done. I salute you. All right, next story is the one that I labeled Story of the Day. It was, yeah. Here's the story of the day. There are some statistics. I will allow you plenty of time to read that as I read you the story. 6:30 p.m. Ukrainian time. Story of the day. The Ukrainian prosecutor general on Thursday said that it had found 6,492 cases of alleged war crimes of aggression since the onslaught of the invasion nearly 50 days ago. The governmental body said that the majority of these alleged instances fell under the category of, quote, breaking the law and customs of war, while some cases were also believed to have been involved in, quote, planning, preparing for, or starting and waging an aggressive war, along with fueling propaganda of war strategies. The prosecutor's office pointed to 570 suspects affiliated with the military or in the political sphere who are believed to have been involved. Another 2,941 crimes against national security were also announced. The number of Ukrainians killed since the fighting began in February continues to remain unclear. However, the United Nations on Wednesday said 4,450 civilian casualties have been verified, with 1,892 killed and 2,558 injured, but actual figures are expected to be as much as 3 times higher. Now, that statistic, for those of you who don't know, is if you ever get a war statistic of casualties, they'll tell you the number of KIA and they will assume times 3 wounded or missing. So that's how they come up with this one. Mayor of the Ukrainian port city of Mariupol said this week that the death toll in the partially besieged city is believed to be well over 10,000, but will probably surpass more than 20,000 following weeks of intense bombardment by Russian troops. Ukrainian President Zelensky said Wednesday that massacres have occurred in Borodyanka, Hostomel, and Makariv, along with cities and villages in the Chernihiv, Kharkiv, and Donbass regions. I even got the accent right. Flex. Moscow's mass human rights abuses first caught global attention earlier this month after Russian troops had vacated areas surrounding the capital city of Kyiv, and more than 400 civilians in the suburb of Bucha were found to have been killed and left in the streets or found in mass graves. Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court (ICC), Karim Khan, traveled to Bucha this week to launch the International Court's investigation into the alleged war crimes. Ukraine is a crime scene. We're here because we have reasonable grounds to believe that crimes within the jurisdiction of the ICC are being actively committed. We have to pierce the fog of war to get to the truth, Khan said in an ICC Twitter post. What he actually means is we have to pull back the Iron Curtain, because once they leave, then you can see what's actually going on. The chief prosecutor also traveled to Borodyanka, an area roughly 30 miles from Bucha, to investigate additional claims of war crimes Thursday. Responsibility for the Russian military for war crimes is inevitable. We will drag them all to the tribunal, Zelensky said in a Wednesday address. And not only for what was done in Bucha. The Ukrainian president also pointed tens of thousands of anti-personnel mines that Russian troops had deliberately left behind in residential areas as an additional attempt to further maim and kill Ukrainian citizens. Poland and Lithuania have also set up teams that will investigate Russia for war crimes in coordination with the ICC. My problem with this is all post facto prosecution. You have to ask the question, if all these countries are willing to investigate war crimes, why didn't they have the gumption to mobilize troops to prevent this from happening in the first place? Oh, because it's an escalation. I'm sorry, was the wholesale slaughter of a nation's people not an escalation within itself? I mean, are we cool with letting 10,000 people die before we send someone in? Apparently that's the case. Actually, it's more than 10,000. I mean, they've already displaced 25% of the entire population of the country. They're gone. They've left. And another 15% of those people who stayed in the country are now dead. How many more have to die before someone does something about it? Oh, we don't want to escalate. It's a world war. We don't want to be in a world war. Newsflash, you're in one, dipshits. Just saying that you're not in one doesn't separate you from the fact that you're in one. You have donated military equipment. You are trying to press charges against another nation's military. You are publicly on the record denouncing that you are in this, whether you want to admit it or not. Man up. Moving on. Can you tell this shit pisses me off? Yeah, just slightly. This story that I have for you now is the last story I have for the day. Which means I will get you out of here within an hour. Let's see. 3:37 p.m. my time. 10:37 p.m. Ukrainian time. So it's almost the end of day 50 in theater. Russia has continued to accuse the U.S. of running a biological weapons program in Ukraine in recent days, raising fears that they could be attempting to create a pretext to use their own weapons of mass destruction in the country. Now, sidebar. If you're not from the United States, let me explain. We have a two-party system in this country. It's garbage. Let's be honest. Because what we have done in this country is we have dumbed down the decision of the leadership of this country that could affect the life or death of its people on a this or that kind of system. In every decision that you, as a conscious adult, makes in your everyday lives, I'm fairly certain, confident even, that you don't have a this or that system for any major decision you make with your family. It's not that simple. There's this or this or this or this, which could lead to that or that or that. And if I choose this, it could result in this, right? That's what real life is. That's what we call advanced level adulting. And yet we have dumbed down our leadership selections in this country to just this or that. And frankly, that's fucking pathetic. Anyway, the point is, because we have a two-party system, it's easy to identify the bigger of the two idiots. And the bigger of those two idiots are called the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, Democratic Party. Let's not kid ourselves. And in that party, they have a playbook. And because that party is made of such absolute retards, that playbook has one page on it. And that one page has two rules. The first rule is always preemptively accuse the other side for which you are actually guilty of yourself to deflect attention away from you. And if all else fails, use rule number 2. And rule number 2 is if rule number 1 fails, fall back on racist, sexist, homophobe, xenophobe, or whatever bullshit they have to deflect the attention away from you. That's just what they do. Well, Russia loves that idea. So rather than admit that they are the devil incarnate with biological weapons, they took page 1 out of the DNC playbook, and they have preemptively accused the United States on a world stage that we are running a biological weapons facility in Ukraine. So they could justify their future use of biological weapons. They'll say, hey, look, we only use these because we know you're making them there. Now, that got debunked 3 weeks ago. The quote, biological weapons factory or lab in Ukraine was for communicable diseases, and the Ukrainian government asked our CDC, how do we destroy all of this before the Russians move in and take it and try to weaponize it? They asked us for advice on how to kill it all before the Russians get there. And the Russians are turning around going, no, they have a biological weapons thing. Of course we're going to use ours. Which justifies why they brought the butcher of Syria in to command the Russian military in the Donbass region, Dvornikov, also known as the next dead general when Wally gets him within his sights.
Well, I was about to say, well, they are kind of lacking in the general staff area.
Well, we say that, but I mean, if you look at the number of generals that were actually employed just in the ETO in World War II, it was like 1,500 generals. We just don't talk about them all. We just don't talk about them all. They've probably got a couple hundred. Let's be real, right?
You've got anything from a 4-star on down to a single star.
Exactly. So anyway, the fears come from Russia's Ministry of Defense released a list of names of U.S. and EU citizens the Kremlin claims have been involved in a biological weapons program in Ukraine, with the country's chief of Russia's Radiological, Chemical, and Biological Defense Forces, Lieutenant General Kirillov, making similar accusations, Russian media reported. Russian media also reported that the Russian Foreign Ministry, Sergei Lapdog, I will not dignify his real name, accused the U.S. and allies of waging, quote, total hybrid war against Russia, which he said was designed to cut the world off from Russian information. Rebecca Koffler, an author and former DIA intelligence officer, fears that this could be the pretext for Russia to begin using weapons of mass destruction against Ukraine. Russia is escalating its disinformation campaign against the U.S., using accusations of alleged running WMD programs in Ukraine as a potential justification for employing their own WMD in Ukraine. Feeling rushed to claim a victory by May 9th and frightened by Sweden and Finland's pending plans to join NATO, Putin is considering catastrophic measures in the last and quote hottest phase of Russia's war in Ukraine. Now, some of you may be wondering, why May 9th? May 9th is basically VE Day, isn't it? He's trying to get this all wrapped up by May 9th so it falls on the anniversary of the end of hostilities of World War II in the European theater of operation. What a cocksmoker. I mean, like, first of all, you're not the good guy. You're the attacker. You are the thing you're accusing the country you're attacking to be. You're the Nazi. Okay? You broke Godwin's law by mentioning Nazis in a country where the president is led by a Jew. Like, that right there should have stopped you in your tracks when the world goes, "Are you fucking stupid?" Whatever. Anyway, I'm going to take a look at the news real quick from my sources, and I'm going to see if there's anything I can give you that's extra. Okay, I have one story for you, and it has to do with the picture, the thumbnail you're seeing right now. 1 hour ago, Russian state media finally admits that the Moskva has been lost. It has sunk in the Black Sea. And with that, I'm going to play this. Because I am out of stories. And I did reach the 1 hour mark. So I'm going to thank you all for watching and joining us today on your Thursday evening. I want to thank Scott for being here as my panelist. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. But if you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, check out my other playlists and see if my other interests might be of interest to you. I have edited and have the next firearms review video for Sunday ready to go. So there will be that. And as a program note, there will not be a war room tomorrow for day 51. Not because it's a slow news day, but I have a date. And I'm going to enjoy it because I deserved it. So anyway, thank you all for watching. This was the War Room. This was day 50. Slava Ukraini, and we'll see you Saturday.